Astro van enthusiasts. This is Dennis John Sietsma Productions, Dennis Sietsma, Homestead, Florida, USA. Today is the 23rd of January, 2024, January 23rd. It's 9:04 a.m. Eastern Time in Homestead, Florida, USA. And I'm working on this almost 30-year-old van. I bought it new in 1994. And like I say, I'm an enthusiast. I'm not a professional. And I have a clunking noise, and there was a tick, tick, tick and a clunking noise. And I had fluctuating oil pressure followed by no oil pressure. So I was hoping to use this OEM tool, part number 27060, to develop oil pressure like this, and it's not going to work with the heads off and the intake manifold off. Not going to work. To see if I have oil pressure using drill and that primer tool. That tool is for assembled engines, not for one in pieces like this. But the plan for today is, because this has analog gauges on it, when I turn on the ignition without the sensors installed, all of the gauges peg, and that stresses them, and the fuel level, the coolant level, and oil pressure will peg because it's open circuit. So I have to put a resistance between the sensor, where the sensors are, and I've got some 22 ohm resistors that'll work. And in the past video diaries, this is a documentary, this is not a how-to, this is from pin A to ground on the oil pressure. I found that zero resistance gave me 0 psi, and then I went up to 50 ohms in increments. So I'm going to start with 22 ohm resistors. Now, I pulled the fuel pump relay. It's removed because I don't want gas shooting out as soon as I turn on the key, you know, and I've had a fire in here, so I don't want another one. You have to know at the mid-frame connector, desperately you have to know the color of the wires for your van. Mine, this is my van, this is a 94. This is an excerpt that I took a picture of, and I blew it up out of the 1994 factory GM Astro van service manuals. I have the whole set. I bought the van new, and I bought the set new in 94. So I have access. You know, I could never do this work without those service manuals, so they're worth their weight in gold. And I am taking pictures of the pages and putting it up on media sections of the Astro van groups for the older Astro vans to help other enthusiasts. But anyway, the gray wire goes to the fuel pump on the gas tank side of this connector that I'm showing you a picture of. The purple wire on my van, I don't know about your van, but the purple wire goes to the instrument cluster. So from purple to ground, with 20 ohms, should give me a reading on the fuel level of something. You know, I wish I had a 40 ohm, because unless I'm mistaken, normally instrumentation goes from 30 to 140 ohms for analog gauges for marine and automotive, unless I'm mistaken. I did a lot of instrumentation work when I was working for the government. I put internet-based instrumentation packages on old engine generators, and I like doing it because it was amazing that we could do that to an old generator, you know, 40, 50-year-old generator, 80-year-old generator. Put the instrumentation packages on them, and then use telemetry to monitor the fuel level and oil pressure, coolant level, all that stuff. And which was really important after a major hurricane or natural disaster, earthquake, what have you, when the generators were running for months at a time, to have that telemetry working. And the ground, of course, is the white and black wire, according to this diagram. And so that's it. At the connector under the van, and I'll put a photograph of that up at the end of this. When I make this a video production, I put my photograph and my research and diagrams like this at the end, so you can fast forward to the end if that helps you. Okay, I know I drone on and repeat myself, but some of these things I have to repeat, like do-it-yourself work can result in death or injury, so do it at your own risk, or don't do it. Have a shop do this stuff for you. Anyway, the plan is I'm going to dummy up the coolant, the fuel, and the oil pressure, and then I'm going to hook up the battery and crank over the engine with the fuel pump disabled, which, you know, will be disabled because I have it unplugged too at the mid-frame connector. I'll show you how I do that in this video, because you know, some things take time to show you, so I can't be more succinct about it. I got to show you each connection and how I ferreted that out. But anyway, once I get the resistors installed, I'll connect the battery, and with the relay fuel pump relay out and the mid-frame connector disconnected, I will crank it and hopefully hear the noise, the clunk, 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 before I look into the lower end. And, you know, after I do that, I'll, depending on what I discover, I will take the oil pan off and we'll start inspecting underneath the engine and checking the oil and the oil filter for any debris, fragments, what have you. Right now I see absolutely nothing wrong with this engine. You know, the upper plenum is got new fuel injection on it, a new spider. I redid all that prior. The heads look really good for the mileage at over 210,000 miles and almost 30 years. I really did services on this engine routinely, like every 3,000 miles I changed the oil and the filter myself, or I had it done. So, and there's hardly any wear on the cylinders. So this one was babied until it stopped working and developed all these problems. So again, audience, I appreciate thumbs up. I appreciate it even more if you subscribe. I am not being paid for this and will not be until I have at least 4,000 subscribers, and I got 350 right now. But subscribers, I love you. Thank you for watching. Dennis Sietsma, Homestead, Florida, USA. Okay, it's high noon, audience. Astro van enthusiasts. Anyway, 12 o'clock on the nose. The 23rd of January 2024, it's a Tuesday, 82 degrees. My efforts to dummy up the, I don't know why this failed, but I put a resistor, 50 ohms to ground, on the A pin, on the oil pressure, and I guess I'm just not getting a good enough connection. I'll have to ferret that out later. But unfortunately, the oil pressure pegged. I put a 50 ohm resistor on the fuel level at the mid chassis connector on the black with the white striped wire and the purple on the side that goes to the van, not to the tank. And I'm getting a fuel level of about 3/4 tank with 50 ohms. Unfortunately, the oil pressure's pegged. Coolant temperature's below 100. It's moving a little bit, so I put a resistor, 50 ohm resistor, on what I thought was the ECT connector. Anyway, the point of all this is I wanted to crank the engine, see if I hear any noise, and I'm ready to do that whether the instruments are pegging or not. Anyway, here we go. No noise. Okay, gang, so what's wrong with this engine? No noise, but no oil pressure either. Or is that a lie? Nope, no oil pressure. It's not pumping up any. So I guess the next step is to pull the oil pan after I drain the oil and check the filter. Methodically, I think that's it. Anyway, audience, chime in if you will. Dennis Sietsma, Dennis John Sietsma Productions, Homestead, Florida, USA. Always keep your fire extinguishers nearby, several. Do-it-yourself work can result in death or injury, so do-it-yourself work is done at your own risk. But I don't hear any noise, and I don't think I've been hitting on the pistons with the back of a hammer, and I just don't hear anything wrong. So I don't know what's going on here. But learning a lot in the process. If anybody, there's a mystery sensor or two on the left bank underneath the knock sensor. There's another sensor, and it looks like a temperature sensor to me, and I don't know what the heck it is. I went all through the service manual, so if anybody knows, please post a comment. Thanks for watching. Do-it-yourself work is done at your own risk. Okay, I'm going to do this on camera. Number 6 sounded like it had a little chatter in it when I hit it with the hammer, with the back of the hammer, the wood handle. This is what Eric at I Do Cars does all the time when he wants to check a lower end on an engine and he's got the heads off. You thunk it with something. And if it doesn't sound good, it may not be good. So anyway, number 6 sounds like it got a little chatter in it when I hit it with a dead blow hammer or this hammer. I tried 2 different hammers, see what I could feel or see. That sounds solid. And there's not a whole lot of room here. Yeah, that one's got a little bit of chatter in it. So let's go over and do the other 2. I really thought number 3 would be the villain in this, because that's where it got flooded with gas. Number 3 and 4. Remember hitting it. Of course, you gotta crank it over a little bit more to see it. But no oil pressure is not good. But maybe that's the way it is with the engine taken apart. But 210,000 miles worth of wear on this engine, so might be. There's no damage to the crank. I might get away with just replacing the cam and the lifters and the lower end bearings and the cam bearings, just bearings and rings basically. But I doubt I can do that with the engine installed. But I need to get the oil pressure back, number 1, so we'll see what happens with that. Again, audience, thanks for watching. Sorry this is so long and drawn out, but I'm trying to take it step by step. And if you have any comments or ideas or suggestions, please post a comment. Okay, Astrovan enthusiasts, I think I have this sorted now. It's 12:14 in the PM Eastern Time on the 123, January 23rd, 2024. It's a Tuesday, 82 degrees. What I'm doing here is I wanted to rotate the engine with the starter, but since I had analog gauges, I didn't want to bury them, so I had to put resistors on. Your van may be different, so verify the wiring with schematic diagrams before you try this trick. But I went from the A pin to ground, and I wasn't happy with the ground, so I ran a new wire all the way to the battery negative, and then I connected the ground points for the back of the engine, there, and then the front of the engine, which is there. And I jumpered everything. I put a 50 ohm resistor for fuel that I used some Molex pins soldered to them so I could get a good connection on the mid-frame connector with the fuel pump unplugged. I wanted to protect that brand new fuel pump and fuel sending unit that I had installed, so I unplugged it using resistors. Now with that, when I turn the ignition on, I get about 25 psi with 25 ohms on the oil pressure from pin A to ground, which is on this van. It's looks like, oh, I can't tell the color. Anyway, look at my research at the end of the video productions, and you can see the pictures and the diagrams and pages from the service manual that I've converted and added at the very end of my video productions for people like me that love to dig into details. But anyway, cranking the engine is fine. I don't hear anything wrong. And thunking it on the cylinders with the back of the hammer. I hear low play, but you know, at this mileage, it's 208,312. 208,312 on the clock. I keep saying 210, but getting ahead of myself. And I got no oil pressure, and I may not have it anyway with the distributor out and the heads and the manifold off. I don't know. Post a comment if that would, whatever you think, audience. But underneath the van, I will say, this is how I did the mid connector on the van. I'm going to need a flashlight. I'll grab that. Okay, so about that place in the van, you know, where the driver's door goes down, about there, I crawl underneath there. And sorry for all the noises, but yeah. Oh. All right, underneath the van, we find, and I hope I can see this on the monitor. Okay, get that out of the way. Okay, there you can see the resistor I added to the mid-frame connector, and I've unplugged the cable. I've unplugged it from the fuel pump because I don't want to mess with that brand new Delphi unit I put in there. Anyway, I use Molex connector pins soldered to this resistor with some 18 gauge wire. 18 gauge seems to work. I got 18 and 20 gauge wire and fabricated that to dummy up the fuel pump for me. So I didn't want to stress those instruments if I could avoid it. And I've already stressed it on the fuel because I didn't have a good connection, I guess, at the oil sender, which was the A pin to ground. And check my research for the colors of the wires. And the same thing on this thing, it's a purple wire to the black with a white stripe. Black with a white stripe is the ground. And like I said, I have questionable grounds how GM did this. I'm going to run a new ground wire from the negative side of the battery to all the major ground points on the front of the engine, the back of the engine, the starter, the frame for the fuel pump. I just don't like this. Anyway, post a comment. Hope you are thinking good of my videos. I'm going to run out of time to work on this. Next thing I'm going to do is pull a pan. And after I check the oil and the filter for any fragments. But there won't be any more video diaries, or very few in the future, because I'm just out of time to work on this project. And I appreciate the audience. Do-it-yourself work can result in death or injury, so do it at your own risk. Dennis John Seatsma Productions, Homestead, Florida, USA. Thanks for watching. Okay, it's 1:06 Eastern Time on the 23rd of January 2024. It's a Tuesday. It occurred to me while I was eating lunch that I had to put the distributor back in to get any oil pressure while I'm cranking it. And don't worry about the milky oil, because when I took the heads off, a lot of coolant went into the engine. So it wasn't milky before I took the heads off. And I can't find anything else wrong. And it looks like I do have something coming out. Hang on. and even more now. Squirting a lot of oil. So I guess I don't get any oil pressure with the engine tore apart like this. People in the office are probably laughing at me, but this is the first time I ever tried to do it like this. And don't worry about the milky oil. I've already had people commenting about that, saying, oh, yeah, I did all these other tests before I took it apart. If you watch my video library, I did combustion gas and the coolant test. It passed. I did leak down test. It passed. I did combustion compression tests. It passed. The fuel injection I have all sorted already. I did that in the past. New fuel pump in the fuel tank and all that. New spider. Had all of that sorted. New distributor. And now I'm just trying to find out what was causing that awful noise. And I'm going to have to figure out a way to edit that in to show, or just look at the past diaries when I had it running. You can see the clunking and the click, 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 click. Oh well, even if I put it back together the way it is, I'd probably put a new fuel oil pump in it, new cam and lifters, and do a valve job, even if I just put it back together without worrying about what's wrong with the block. But I need to figure out what was making that noise. And I don't think it's rod knock, because, you know, I pulled one spark plug at a time and it didn't seem to make any difference. So anyway, next thing I'm going to do is drain the oil and check the oil filter for contamination before I pull the oil pan. And I may not get to pulling the oil pan today. It's already 1 o'clock. And a lot of the time this morning I was wasted trying to mock up this resistor situation and checking the wiring and all that in the service manuals. And I'm still a little confused about a little bit of it, but I'll get it sorted with enough pictures and looking at enough diagrams. I'll get the wiring sorted. And anyway, audience, death or injury can result from do-it-yourself work, so do it at your own risk. Dennis Seitzma, Dennis John Seitzma Productions, Homestead, Florida, USA. Again, audience, thanks for watching. Okay, audience, it's almost 1:40 in the afternoon Eastern Time on the 23rd of January, 2024. It's a Tuesday. I drained the oil and pulled the oil filter, and later I'll cut open that. I'll get a Sawzall or something, wearing gloves of course, and cut open that oil filter and see if I have any contamination or fragments in there. I didn't see anything in the oil when I drained it, but hey, look, number one, TDC, so easy to find when you have the head off, eh? Of course, you never know if it's on the exhaust stroke or the combustion stroke when you hit TDC. Yeah, but I painted up my, there's two marks on this thing for some reason, so I painted one orange and the other one yellow. So, and I thought the first one would be it, but it's the second one as she comes around clockwise. And you're not supposed to go counterclockwise if the engine goes clockwise. That's supposed to be a no-no. Somebody will have to explain that to me, why you can't go backwards. Because, you know, they have engines that run both ways. And still can't find anything wrong with this engine yet. So maybe if I get the subframe out somehow, I don't know how, haven't figured that out yet. I'll call around town and see if somebody will help me get the subframe out, get this engine into a machine shop and have it gone through, because I really don't think I can get it out of here even with the pan off. But I'll take some measurements, we'll see. But I think it's gonna, the subframe's gonna have to come off and have this engine run through a machine shop or get another engine somewhere, don't know which, or just put it back together again and pray after you put in a new camshaft and lifters and replace the seals and all that stuff. So, what do you think, audience? Post a comment. If you're stuck with me this long in this documentary video diary, and look at the end, the video productions for my notes, my research, photographs, stuff that you might find interesting. And again, audience, do-it-yourself work has death or injury possibilities, so do at your own risk. Thanks for watching. It's 5:30 p.m. on the 23rd of 2024, January 23rd. It's a Tuesday, about 77 degrees. I'm about ready to cut into this oil filter. I see Eric on the internet at YouTube on I Do Cars. Hey Eric, I'm a fan. Could do this all the time to find out if there's any debris in there from an engine problem. So I'm going to try this, and I have my safety glasses and my gloves. And do-it-yourself work can result in death or injury, so do at your own risk. But I'm going to try to inspect this and see what's wrong with my engine. And I still can't find anything wrong with it so far. Seems to be clean as a whistle. Everything looks good. I've well maintained it for 208,000 miles. It's Dennis Seitzman, Dennis John Seitzman Productions, Homestead, Florida, USA. This is a video diary. This is not a how-to. Video diary documentary on the work on my almost 30-year-old 1994 Chevy Astro van. Let me pause the camera while I cut this, or attempt it, see how it works out. Okay, I've got the first cut into it, and I'm going to try to go all the way around. I may have to take tin snips and do that, but it's just not easy to hold that steady. If there's a better way to do this, audience, let me know. Got a little bigger cut into it now. Still working on it. Oh, this looks like a lot of work doing it this way. Is there a better way to do this? Post a comment. Unfortunately, I don't have the facilities here for a bandsaw. Boo-hoo. Sometimes you got to work with what you got, and this is not easy. I have a Sawzall, but I didn't want to get that crazy with it. If anybody has a good part number in the audience for a PF52 for that little cup that goes on the bottom, let me know, because one I had was plastic and it didn't survive very well this time. And I'm working around the thing, hopefully get through it. I tried using the aviation snips to cut this, but wasn't any better. Mr. Wiss, but didn't work. So gonna carry on with the hacksaw. May break out the Sawzall though, now that I got it started. Breaking out Mr. Sawzall with a new metal cutting blade. Let's see if this works any better than a hacksaw. Okay, I had a heavy leather glove to protect my hand. I've already learned that lesson the hard way. I was fishing in Key West one time and caught a nice big fish. I was at the cleaning station and some boys came up and said, "Wow, mister, where'd you get the big fish?" And I slipped with the fillet knife and hurt my left hand. Should have been wearing one of those protective gloves. So anyway, Mr. Sawzall did it, and got this filter in front of me and don't see anything in there yet. Got to take a closer look, so I got to put the camera down, but this is what the inside of an oil filter looks like. But I'm going to look at this carefully, and next I plan to remove the transmission cover on the 4L60E, mark the bolts, bag and tag, take the cover off, and then start to get working on the oil, taking off the oil pan. But I don't see anything wrong here yet. So thanks for watching. Dennis Seitzman, Dennis John Seitzman Productions, Homestead, Florida. Do-it-yourself work can result in death or injury, So do it at your own risk. And this is not a how-to. This is a documentary. It's a video diary of the work on my 1994 Astro van that I bought new back in Homestead in November after Hurricane Andrew.